So the next paper is by Matthew Riley and Uyen Nguyen. Apologies if I pronounced the name incorrectly there. Perhaps you can correct me. And they will be looking at audio, sound reactive audiovisual installations. So I'll hand over to you guys.
Thanks, John. It looks like, is it possible to have my video on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot start my video either.
Yeah, we'll just enable that for you.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, John.
Great. Thanks so much. And thank you for the earlier welcome. It's great to join everyone. We're in Australia and it's quite late here. So both Uyen and I will be presenting, and I think Uyen, you can kick things off. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. So hello everyone. Thank you for attending our talk titled YomeciLand at Bunjil Place, the sounding body as play. My name is Uyen, and John, that was perfect pronunciation of both the first and the last name from you. Thanks so much. I am an animator, designer, and filmmaker. My practice focuses on the playful potential of sound in animation, games, and interactivity. And I'm here to talk about one of these projects, YomeciLand at Bunjil Place. It's a playable sound responsive installation which uses artificial intelligence for its audio recognition capacity.
And my name's Dr. Matthew Riley, and I'm a lecturer in animation, games and interactivity at RMIT. And I've been supporting Uyen as a creative producer in making YomeciLand, and I've been designing interactive and playful works for about 20 years now. So it's been a great new project to develop with Uyen, and also Max and Boozy, who collaborated on this work.
Thanks, Matt. So Yomeci is an abbreviation of you, me, and the city, which is a phrase I have been using to describe my practice in sound and play. I've been exploring both listening and making sounds as a form of play and investigating how our sonic world can be harnessed creatively to construct new perceptions and interpretations. I've delved into this through a number of platforms and approaches. This Yomeci practice started with doing sound walks around the city and then creating 2D animations based on the recorded urban sounds and voices of Melbourne CBD. How it worked is that recorded urban sounds from these sound walks were reimagined, recontextualized, and spontaneously animated into a quirky, heartfelt 2D web series. I also developed a prototype for a location-based mobile game called YomeciLand that used found sound as a form of play. Players walk the streets, laneways, and public spaces of the city to listen and record environmental sounds using their phone. Players' mobile devices then became instruments for capturing, abstracting, and playing with their sonic surroundings. These urban found sound captured by players could be vehicles, construction noise, conversations, street music, and birds, so on. They were used as a form of input. So different sounds would generate different creatures that populated our digital world. Creatures created from low fidelity sound inputs were categorized as a predator. These are often louder sounds in the sonic environment like traffic and construction noise. And they would hunt on those created from high fidelity sound input, which are prey. These are often quieter sounds in our urban sonic environments like bird song. This location-based game explored how play can be used to engage players with urban sounds in an attentive or purposeful way, and how this experience could encourage new discoveries and understanding of our surroundings in a city. So that's for listening as a form of play. More recently, I have been creating a series of interactive installations, including YomeciLand at Bunjil Place, which emphasize sound making. I have collaborated on this work with Piantoni as our interactive software developer, and Uyen Nguyen as the engineer, who's also my brother, and Matthew Riley as the creative director, creative producer.
So this presentation will, I'll just outline some of the key conceptual and technical themes of YomeciLand at Bunjil Place with Uyen. And essentially it's, we'll be talking about, I suppose, a model for using artificial intelligence, a very simple form in creative practice, specifically for audio recognition. And YomeciLand was a work that was exhibited at Bunjil Place, an outer suburban sort of arts precinct in outside of Melbourne. And it was exhibited for 10 days. And in that time, it attracted around about 5,000 visitors, which was the most attendance for that particular exhibition space at Bunjil Place. We'll just give an overview of the project in relation to three principal themes: artificial intelligence for sound recognition, the sounding body as play, and audiovisual composition as a performance. So YomeciLand at Bunjil Place it features a real-time 3D environment of strange invented flora and fauna, and these evolve through the sonic performances of visitors to the gallery space. So different sounds generated by participants create distinct digital animations, and the more the audience interacts with the work, the more populated and dynamic this virtual ecosystem becomes.
So to interact with the work, a participant presses a button situated on a central stand, which triggers the work to listen to sounds that are made into its microphone. Non-verbal expressions such as whistling, laughing, and humming are recognized and categorized as a form of audio input, and then visualized in this virtual environment as an animated life form or entity. Each digital entity has its own sonic and visual identity, which establishes a diverse ecology of movement, animation, and sound as each creature is called into this world. YomeciLand is about creation and world building. There's no defined goals or objectives as such. It is an open-ended experience. So in this work, we use the term sounding body to describe human participant physical and embodied interaction with YomeciLand at Bunjil Place. The work invites our physical involvement, where participants make sounds using their bodies to create nonverbal vocalizations and gestures. The work responses to inputs of nonverbal sounds like clapping, humming, stomping, whistling, chewing, singing, juggling, etc. This means anyone can play with the work, and this accessibility was a very important feature given almost a third of the community residents around Bunjil Place speak English as a second language, with over 140 languages represented in the local community. Without any verbal languages as sound inputs, anyone of any age can play and interact with the work. Early prototypes of YomeciLand as an installation utilized pitch and volume to categorize sound input. However, this version, YomeciLand at Bunjil Place, implemented an audio classifier model to recognize audio input as sounds. The intention of the system was to encourage participants to perceive that they were being listened to, with the artificial world understanding them and the sounds they made with more accuracy. Our engineer, Yui, is himself, in consultation with our interactive software developer, Max, developed the basic audio recognition system we used in the installation at Bunjil Place. The audio classification system used was an adaptation of IBM developer model Asset Exchange. The system reads a signed 16-bit PCM WAV file, uses VGGish to generate embeddings, applies principal component analysis, transformation, quantization, forwards the input to a pre-trained multi-attention classifier, and outputs 5 highest correlated predictions. Our classifier is trained using, the classifier we used is trained using AudioSet. It's a comprehensive audio data set that consists of a collection of more than 2 million human-labeled 10-second sound clips from YouTube videos. This audio classifier is hosted on a network server. And to enable sound recognition for YomeciLand at Bunjil Place, a cross-platform network socket was developed to send a WAV file recorded from the interactive application to the network server. The audio file was fed into the classification process, and the predicted result was sent back to the application. An empirical solution was also used. This logic table served as a complementary filter supporting our audio classification system. The logic table used was a complementary filter to post-process the output of the classifier. As you can see, the sound input represents the actions of the participant. The classifier output is the output of the audio classification model. Through this complementary table, all respective classifier outputs are post-processed as the desired value sent to the interactive application.
The last theme we'll quickly outline is this notion of audio-visual composition as performance. So interactors build the work through their choices, and each sound input they make changes the audio-visual composition of the work. Each entity called into YomeciLand has unique characteristics, and each of them relate to each other in various ways and create the competition. So each creature or entity that you can see here has its own rhythm, sound, visual and animated qualities, and these are uniquely combined by participants. And the sonic experience, which is created by a sound designer, Rod Price, it builds through these combinations of audio loops. So each creature has its own sonic identity, which layers with each other. And it's really important that this very simple sort of sound recognition capacity we used, it gave participants a sense of control and agency in shaping this world. So if a participant hums, for example, it will grow a sort of low-lying grass-like form and sort of play a calm and soothing sound. But if a participant whispers, a fire-like firefly-like form is called sort of High Into the Sky, and it plays a sort of like melodic note. And it's also, the composition is also constructed through its visual form. So, you know, each entity has its own distinct animation, color, shape, size, and these are all sort of aesthetic effects which build and relate to each other in different ways. And some participants were attached to specific entities and purposefully called them into existence and constructed it to their own interests. And you know, the whole sort of gallery space where this was exhibited at Bunjil Place became a sort of dynamic and playful performance space.
In conclusion, we have outlined a model for using a very basic form of artificial intelligence to aid sound recognition in an interactive installation. What made this system and accuracy important was that the technology became invisible and participants were engaged with the experience itself. We observed a kind of joy from those playing with the work and an affection or affinity that people had with the creatures they had created. This little girl and this photo that I took during the time that Bunjil Place was at, YomeciLand was at Bunjil Place. She came to the studio space and kept laughing and giggling to the microphone in order to call out the laughing deer, the chuckling deer. And at the end of it, she came up to the cutout that we used to name the sound input to hug the deer. It was really adorable. We are currently using this approach in a new work titled You, Me, Things, which has been commissioned in Australia for Experimental Lifeform, International Triennial of Media Arts, and will launch in 2021. It will tour in major and regional locations in Australia for the next 3 years. So we are excited to see how so many people engage and play with this work over the next few years. If you are interested in getting in touch, please email us. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening.
Okay, thanks guys. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
So I can see we've already got some comments from some people that have seen this who saying some nice things about it in the chat. Do we have any other questions? If anyone has a question, if you'd like to post it in the chat. So perhaps while people think, do you have any kind of link to a video or anything that we could share in the chat actually for people who want to kind of see this remotely?
Yeah, we do. We have
Thanks,
we have a website, man. I can.
Yeah, so maybe if you can post the link for that would be good.
Yes.
And I was also wondering, I mean, with the sort of audio recognition technique you're using, how long does it kind of take people to sort of figure out what's happening with the interactions and stuff as they kind of explore that, and what does that kind of process look like?
That's a very interesting question. That's one of the things that Nat and I discussed the most, actually. I think at some point we were interested in not naming the sounds people can make into the microphone so that they could like find out all about themselves. However, because when we staged the work at Bunjil Place, it was during school holiday, and so we had to take into consideration that lots of the participants would be children, and thus we then came up with having like this 10 cutouts naming the sound and a little poem on each of them, so that children can, and also a silhouette of the creature associated or represent connected, a creature that will be called out if you made a specific sound, and found that it was very effective. It worked perfectly because children would just come into the space and point it at a shape of the creature they wanted to make, or ask like, oh, what this sound means, or what, or yeah. And so we kind of named the sound in this version. But that was a very interesting question because I think particularly in our team, Matt was very interested in not naming it and giving that freedom to the player themselves.
Okay, great. We have a question from Terry, which is, what happens if you don't clap or similar, but instead play music?
Oh, yeah,
That's
interesting. That will, what happens if you don't clap or similar, but instead play music? Well, I think we'd have to try doing this to see what UMSC will understand and do, which is the magic of it, I think. But from my observation, because technically speaking, because the model that we are using for the sound recognition capacity also features other sound classes that are not human sounds. So it will absolutely understand that it's music, but what YomeciLand do will be different. So the brain of it will get that, this is music, but what it does, which creature it creates, all that will have to be in the actual space and play it to know.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's all we have time for questions, but thanks, Uyen and Matthew. That was